Just rid of that. That's so we all know.
Yeah.
So annoying. So Aaron, I'm just gonna pan the audience, you see,
And the back of George's
and there's
head.
back of George's head. If I go down, you can see his neckline here. Oh, there's Dan. Jill, she's a fish. She was swimming today. She grew gills. So this will be okay on the mic. I think I'll have to be a little bit up. You won't be able to see the whiteboard.
Yeah, I've got.
I'm gonna start the slideshow just so. Oh, it is on there already. Never mind.
That was bad.
Yeah.
All those years as an intellectual. You didn't check off the hall, the way to the bottom. Where's the name said? I think I haven't really done. I like that I have images of her. I've been there years. Yes. Check the list.
Aaron, can you see the slides okay?
I can't see slides right now.
Not at all?
No, you're not sharing screen.
Okay, I'll share.
And he sort of lost his.
You see it now, full screen? You see it full screen or you see it as a small square?
I see the whole thing with your notes about next slide and stuff,
Oh, okay, so I don't want you to see that.
the presentation view. Yeah.
The groups where there was a control group that did nothing, didn't walk their diets, didn't exercise. And there was a group.
Okay, that should be better.
Yep, that's perfect.
It's when he took on. He likes keeping statistics.
I'm Barbara, and I am the president of the board this year. And Wanda is on our board. Tara is on our board. And George is on our board. And Aaron is on our board as our minister. And ex officio, which means he doesn't vote, but he contributes to our discussions and our decision makings. Today's, I'm so happy to see so many people in person here, because it really helps us talk about things that we need to do for the future of this fellowship. And let's see. I'm gonna light the chalices to kind of bring us in. It helps us leave behind stuff that's outside. And we carry lots of things from outside. And then I will just ask us to do some focusing. So just ask you to focus on the flame. It's the flame of the chalice, which we like, that brings this community together. And focus on the spark that's inside you. Extend it to community and to the world. And then feel that come back into yourself. We come together as a faith group. We don't share the same beliefs, but we do embrace our principles, and that leads us to behave in a certain way. So today, we're going to talk about how to bring this community into the future. We, on the board, have information to share with you, and we need your responses. The idea is not to make any decisions today. The idea is to gather information, ideas about directions, and then we'll take it from there. Our actual annual general meeting will be the end of May, as usual. But we encourage your participation today. There are many changes happening in society, many changes happening here in this fellowship, many changes happening in other Unitarian Universalist fellowships here in the States and worldwide, and happening in other religious and faith organizations worldwide. It's a difficult time, but it's also a time of a lot of opportunity to witness, hold each other up. And when I mean each other, I guess I mean other human beings and non-human beings. And so just ask you to take a couple of deep breaths, take care of yourself, and do share during the meeting. Any questions? Okay. First is George.
Okay.
All right. George is also our treasurer, for those of you who don't know.
We'll be passing the plate.
Again and again.
Again and again, yeah, we'll do about 3 rounds today. So, there are several things going on with the fellowship that you may not be fully aware. One is that Arn will not be renewing this contract in September for reasons, I think it's fair to say, Arn, that have nothing to do with us. Is that fair?
He's nodding.
Yep.
It's not.
Yeah.
And so that's one level of decision that we have to question. Right? Are we going to re-engage with a part-time minister? The second issue is our financial base. Well, the second issue is our membership. Could you bring it up? Very next slide. With the agenda. So, the agenda, we missed that.
People can read.
It was there a minute ago.
Was it? Okay, good. We were actually,
There we are. There, it's right there.
we were actually doing fairly well just prior to COVID. Right? And COVID had a significant impact on us. As it did, I think, most organizations. I think we've all found it a little bit difficult to just swing back into the social and organizational lives that we had in 2019. So what that means in terms of membership specifically is that our membership is down close to 20%. Our supporting members have dropped as well, and supporting members are ones that are making a regular volunteer financial contribution. And in addition to the members, we have 22 friends currently. Those are folks who are on our mailing list, some of whom are probably here today who participate, and some who just receive our information. Lorna wasn't collecting that information in 2019. And so our membership and participation have gone a little south on this. Next slide, please.
George, what is friends? How's that defined?
So members are those folks who have formally engaged with us at a membership level and are, as far as the Canadian Unitarian Council is concerned, are members of the Unitarian Church. Friends are folks, some of whom in the congregation have dropped their membership, or dropped their formal membership at least, but still participate in what we do. So we have.
And contribute.
And contribute, yeah. Some, not all. Right, we haven't made that distinction. So, financial picture is this, our donations are down for the last 4 years, about $10,000. Our fundraising is down significantly. How did that one go sideways? That 12.
It was hard.
Yeah, okay. That number of 12,550 isn't quite correct. That includes the almost $5,000 from the Pete Seeger concert. But we did all the banking on that. So we took all the money in and then had to pay United Church back, had to pay the nonprofit group that we were supporting that back. So our residual out of that was only about $1,600. So our total amount was more like about $8,500 from fundraising in total. I think the fundraiser that year is about $7,200, and then I think we netted $1,600 out of each city concert. So our total income, you can see there, our total expenses. So we actually netted about $4,000 in 2019. This year, we're about 7,500 in the red.
George, is it better if we wait for questions on these kind of things? For example, something's come up to me right now, I just wanted to put something up there, but.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, the Johnson request, can you, without, very, very detailed, but explain a bit about the usage and the availability of that for whatever purposes?
Sure. As many of you know, Art and Joy Johnson, long-term members of the fellowship, bequeathed a total of just a little under $120,000 to the fellowship, with a proviso that it be used only to support our members to attend other Unitarian gatherings and events to broaden our understanding of what Unitarianism is out there, not just here, right? And to bring that information back to us to enrich us. And so that is the limit of the use of those funds. Last year, we used less than $5,000. I have put most of that money into GICs at somewhere between 4% and 5%. So at this stage of the game, we're probably going to be, unless we generate more use of those funds, we'll be generating more income from them than we will actually be spending. And so as far as our operating is concerned, it really doesn't have any impact at all, Steve. So that's our financial situation. If we continue on with the part-time minister structure that we've had, that level of deficit of $70,000 will be what we will have this year as well. And we have enough savings to carry on like that for 2 or 3 years. And we'll hit a wall, financially speaking. So that's where we stand financially.
Is the interest generated by the funds of the Johnson able to be directed to generate?
We actually talked about that.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah, the question was, can we use the interest to put into operating? We talked about that at the board. And well, I'll express my personal concern. I'm not sure that's consistent with what Art and Joy would have wanted. Right, and so there's nothing in the bequest that prevents us from doing that. But on the other hand, out of respect for Art and Joy, I'm not sure we should do that, just that's my personal viewpoint on it. I think we should spend it. I think we should get out there and move around. Right, and engage with other Unitarian fellowships and events. And essentially fulfill the wish for us to broaden our horizons. Great.
So one idea that someone suggested, if you want to go to Elliott in Washington, you could pay, get the money to pay for the entire trip from this fund, and then you can make a donation back to the church, like half of it or whatever you want, and that money goes directly to the church.
Yeah, we actually have set up a Johnson Legacy Bequest Fund. The sum total of which is 0 at this point. But the intent is to kind of get at the question of whether we could move that money. There is the option, if you go to an event, get the Johnson Bequest Fund, you could then, if you're feeling in a generous spirit, put that money back into the Johnson Legacy Fund where we could access it, because then it's a donation to us. It's not a transfer from the Johnson Legacy Fund directly. Okay. I think that's
So next
all
one.
on the financial side. Yeah, there's some other stuff I have, but I'm not sure how relevant it is. It might be better to bring it up in the context of questions. The only other point that I would make is that in addition to the minister question and the money question, we also have a question of volunteerism, right? We have the minimum number on the board this year. We do not have a membership committee that's active. We do not have a financial committee that's active. And so we're in a tension there as well. How do we keep our organization running if we don't have enough volunteer support to actually conduct all the tasks that this business of running a church requires? Stephen?
So is there ever an opportunity or perhaps a support deficit spending? Is that something that would be within the parameters of what we can do, not what we want to do?
That's what we are doing. Right? We're at 7,000 deficit this year.
Moving forward, is there any kind of limit? I mean, other.
Yeah, about 3 years. We've got some savings in our banking, that don't show up in our current account that we have set aside in savings and GIC. But yeah, at 8,000 a year, those are gonna disappear pretty fast, about 3 years, 3.5 years. Dan?
In order to deficit spend, we have to borrow money from the bank. And that is not, I don't think it's legal, let alone they've never lent us some money.
We don't have any assets to lend against.
Should use the microphone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because people are
I really
zooming
help
in.
out with that.
We have no equity.
Our instrument.
So loaning money, and then the question is, if that were a bridge to a land of plenty, then maybe, but I'm not clear what that land of plenty is and when we will arrive there, to use sort of biblical metaphor.
George, how much is the total annual cost of a part-time minister?
16,000. We're paying our 1,600 a month for 10 months.
Are you gonna share the rest of the slides, George?
I'm thinking it might be.
I think you should, because when we get ideas,
Alright.
I think they're gonna want to know.
Okay, we'll go through these quickly.
Yeah, just.
I've also heard discussion about, oh, we should get more younger people, blah, 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 right? We need to get more people in. Now I have some questions about that, but before I get to those questions,
George,
go
could
ahead.
you just explain how, what the staffing situation is?
Oh, yeah, okay, sure. So one of the things that we have done over the last few years is, again, because of the tension of volunteers, we put more onto staff. So we have a bookkeeper, we have a coordinator, and we have a tech support person.
Payment coordinator.
That's Lorna.
Lorna.
Oh, I thought she was a meeting.
Well, admin coordinator,
I
she,
think it's admin coordinator.
she has kind of heart and soul of the business aspect of what we do here. And she's talking about retirement, which scares me to death. Because we'll be in the middle of a meeting and she'll say, well, wait a minute, back in,
She's our corporate.
yeah, exactly.
Our corporate family. eh?
Yeah, exactly. Nope, back up. Great. Oh, where there's keep going, go through those. Keep going. Okay, here we go.
Okay, yeah. that's
So
right.
broader community, this is from Stats Canada, right? So one of the things that comes out of that census is that almost 60% of the population is 45 plus. And so if you start looking at the question of how do we get young people in, is that really a market, is the question, right? Just based on numbers. Yeah, right.
And Comox, it's even higher, right?
Comox is even higher, correct. Okay, next one.
That's income.
No, this is the number of households, right? And so one of the things that I always hear about this fellowship is we are a community, right? But when you look at the valley, the number of households, 30% of the households are one-person households. Right, and so.
They
as-
left out couples without children.
No, there's another slide. I have to break everything up, otherwise people will be able to see
I
the
felt living.
information. Yeah. No, that's not right.
Oh, back up.
Anyway, that is what I got. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the difference, if you add that up, are couples without children, right?
That was-
So single parents about 30%, couple with children about 20%, so the number of households with kids is pretty small. Single parent households 7.1%, and then the rest 30 plus 20 plus 7, so 43% roughly are two-person household. So that's, you know, from a marketing standpoint, that's our target market, that's what it looks like.
That means only about 16% with kids, 16, 17. Well. Children.
Well, 19 two-person
Under
plus
20%,
7,
or
about
just
20,
under 30%.
yeah, you have about 25%, 26%. We have in the valley, this actually quite shocked me because I used to do a lot of work on housing. And it explains a bit about affordability. The number of renters is 22%. 10 years ago, that was about a third. Right, and so we are, I'm not sure whether we are a rich community or we are a heavily mortgaged community. It's one of those two. And then in terms of ethnicity, Indigenous 2%, mixed Indigenous 6%, and visible minority about 6%. So that's about 14% of the population are visible minority, and that's a radical change over the last 30 years. Right, when you could count on more or less one hand, visible minority people in the valley. Yeah.
So I'm Julie. I work at the Immigrant Welcome Center, so I can speak to the number of immigrants versus visible minorities. So a visible minority would be someone who you could look out into the crowd and you would say, oh, maybe they weren't born in Canada. As opposed to immigrants, which you can't tell just by looking, right? Yes, yeah. So, and visible minorities are just people who would self-identify as that. So immigrants, so people who have moved to the valley within the last 5 years is about 13%.
Is that total mobility, including people moving from the lower mainland, or is that people moving from outside?
It
Canada?
includes all, so
Yeah.
people who say they've only been in Canada for less than 5 years and they're now here.
Right. Okay. Okay. This one I found interesting as well. So almost 2/3 of the people in the valley who filled out the census form claim to have no religion at all. Which puts us in a bit of a bind in terms of convincing people to join a religion.
Maybe that's our target market.
Yes, yeah.
It might,
already
it might be.
It might be the Unitarians instead, yeah, no religion.
And the bulk of the rest are Christian, so. Target market. How many of us here have kids? Okay, so keep your hands up high. For those of you who have kids who do not go to church regularly, put your hands down.
What doesn't go, the kids?
Who doesn't go to church?
The kids don't go regularly.
Oh, there you go.
So that is a bit of an answer to the question of how much appeal we hold for the youth of the valley, right?
Well, for joining,
Hang on. Excuse me, my phone's off, get out of the way.
I find a lot of my children's ages, which they're getting into they're all in their 40s now. They have a lot of faith. They've been exposed to a lot of different faiths, and a
Right.
lot of them created their own.
Yes,
And so it's just this formal religion thing that they're not buying into.
correct. Yeah, they're pursuing spirituality in a different way through meditation and yoga, different kind of events, dance here in the valley. Yeah, there's all kinds of things going on that they're participating in, but they're not coming to church.
Yeah, I think that's it. That was the same as my point too, that they're not coming to church, but they definitely identify as being church.
Which kind of begs the question, if we were to ask people to join us, what are we actually offering? Right. Right, and I know since COVID, the other thing that we've done is a couple of times ask you and folks who had attended various gatherings, what's important. And two things in my recollection came up clearly. One was connection, and the other thing was spirituality, whatever that is, to each of us. Where are we on that? Is what we're doing now actually moving toward those two points in our lives, connection and spirituality?
So there's a minister I met in Washington, his name Matt, and he started a new congregation in, I think it's Chicago, and it's all young people like 15 to 25, 30. And the first thing they did was got rid of the hymn book. They don't sing any unsingable hymns. And I thought we did that a few years back too. We decided to go into like more singable stuff and modern stuff, or anyway, so they're having big success there, but it's a very young congregation
Is
because
it
of that.
Unitarian? Is it Unitarian?
Unitarian.
Is that
Very-
the one in Boston?
Boston, yeah.
Yeah,
No, me.
he's a drummer.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's the
seriously.
name of that? We can get that, what's the name of that Unitarian group?
Oh, I can find out.
To get, no, get a list of what they're singing, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
He has a whole
Where are you?
online list of it.
Oh, everybody focus.
All right.
So the George shows up.
Thanks for doing your tea. I hope you're healthy.
Connection.
I just wanted to comment.
No, good. Skip it?
I once went to
Just skip it.
Hold that lateral arm. Hold that lateral.
Yeah. Speak into the
This
Oh,
way,
yeah.
this
Oh,
way,
yeah.
this way.
There we go.
okay, so I went to a local fundamentalist church just to see what they were up to. And you know, they had their young people up singing with their hearts out. They had a beat to the song, and it was anything but, I mean, it was more African than it was traditional Christian music, and it was that drum, it was that sense of glory of being part of the group there.
So move this along to the next bit, and there is a part for ideas,
Yep.
so let's stick to the agenda again.
Go back to the agenda.
So,
This is very interesting to me.
Not the Gen X stuff.
Next, one, or is-
Well, my kids and my grandkids.
This is from some surveys in the States, and basically. Participation in form of religion.
Goes this right.
Participation in form of religion. Declined significantly. In reverse with age, in other words, younger people are less involved in form of religion than older people. And there's some. Let's go to the next one.
Next slide, yeah.
And so this is Gen Z, which is the younger generation, but I see a lot of this in my approaching 50 kids, right? I watch who I want, what I want. And they have all kinds of technical access to YouTube, podcasts, all kinds of things. So it's not as though they're not being reflected at all, but they're using different sources than we do for that purpose. I want to get to know you. Been trained to view myself as a brand. What's in it for me? That raised the question for me is what is it that we're offering? But we prefer to avoid our parents' generation on social media. Let the youth look at that. And so you don't see many young kids on Facebook anymore. So they're on Instagram because we took over Facebook. Diversity isn't an option. I know that's certainly true of my kids. They have a very diverse set of friends, not so much here. Mental health issues, anxiety, both, well, we'll get into family history here, but it's not uncommon to have anxiety issues, right? Particularly among the younger generation. Many of my friends grew up with little religion in their lives, so I'm not interested. So it would be, to look at the younger generation, it would be a pretty significant uphill battle. Right, to engage with them in a way that was meaningful for them. And for us.
Yeah, I knew we'd be talking about this kind of thing, my 5 years on the board, this is what we talked about as well. And I'm sure on every board before that, that's what they talked about. And so it's all, I think it's already been said, but not stated, if we do want these things we say we want to make the church bigger, we have to make radical change, like very, very different. This has to look completely different. Rituals have to be different, if there is rituals. So people have to be willing to make very big changes if we want that. If we don't want to make big changes, I'm not gonna leave the church, but it's gonna stay the same as it is. I mean, we've been doing something and this is our result, and so doing the same thing is gonna be the.
Palliative care.
Yeah, yeah. Palliative care. Maybe that's what we're.
You better have another cookie.
I think another thing is that, it's not just that we have to do something to make a change. It's we make a change. We're at a crossroads. We either make a change or we're looking at, are we going to be in existence, 30 years from now? That would make me really sad, make me angry. Well, 5 years from now, yeah. And would make me really sad because I think if it disappears, that the likelihood of getting another group going for the Unitarian in this area would be slim. There are not a lot of new Unitarian groups forming across Canada. But anyway.
All right, you gotta transition us to the next one.
Okay.
I think it's Lauren.
Are you there, Aaron?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Sorry, do we want to put Aaron on the screen?
I have to cancel the slideshow. Do you need to?
Yeah, let's cancel this.
Yeah, I don't need the slideshow.
Need the slideshow.
Okay,
Okay.
bring it on.
It's better that people see Aaron. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically, we've covered some of the issues, and one of the big issues is that the current structure that we have is really focused around the worship services that we do every second week. And those services tend to be very expensive in terms of our resources and our cash, because there's a lot of staff. You're paying me to do them, you're paying tech to do them, or outside speakers. They take a lot of volunteer work, and there's not necessarily the attendance is much smaller than it has been in previous years before COVID. So one of the things that we can look at is not doing that. We can look at other things. And when we look at connection and spirituality, when we've had those conversations, most of the time people have talked about getting connection from small groups that are happening in the congregation rather than from these larger things. So that, yeah, so our resources are very heavy in that area, and it may not be the best use of those resources. So what the board have thought about is that next year that we do a year of experimenting of different options, looking at different models, doing different things and seeing what might work and where there might be energy in the congregation to move forward. So today we're, as has been mentioned, we're not trying to make a plan today in the next, 20 minutes. But we're just trying to like open, like make you aware of this situation and kind of open and expand our possibilities and our ideas to see how we might do that and how we can move forward. Because as we've talked about, like if we tweak a little bit, we can probably stretch it out a few more years, but it's not really making the long-term sustainability that we want to do. That's going to take much bigger changes. And so that's going to take some time and some experimenting and seeing what is working and what is not working. So what we want to think about now for the next 10 minutes or so is if we were to decenter the current model of doing biweekly worships, what other ways could we do worship or ritual? What other ways could we connect with each other? Which other ways could we do spirituality together? And we can talk as well also about like if there are particular demographics that we want to attract, if it's families, like if we want to attract families or we want to attract young adults or we want to attract younger retired folks, those are really different strategies, and we don't have the resources to do all of that at the same time. So there is a sense of like we need to kind of pick a direction, but we also have to see like what do we have energy for? What are we excited about? So we just wanted to open up that space and just throw out some ideas of like what kind of things do people think, what would interest you? What do you think might be exciting for us to move if we shifted some of these resources? And Wanda's gonna write them up on the flip chart when we call them out.
My lovely assistant, Alan.
Sorry, I'm not dressed for the part.
Sure.
Who's up?
Steve's up and then Greg and then Keith.
So I've wondered for a long time regarding outreach. And whether or not we could do some different things regarding outreach. For example, the mention earlier of how the traditional religions are not doing well. And for me, I don't think of Unitarian as a traditional religion. So I would be supportive of and do some moving around, taking things around the neighborhood, whatever, information regarding who we are. And I have a feeling people don't really know what the hell, or what the heck, Unitarian it really is, except maybe some goofy thing, but a lot of the things that were mentioned that the young people seem to, that one generation, whatever that was listed there, I thought, well, Unitarian is kind of can fit into that. So I really believe that more information out there regarding who we are, and that we're not the traditional religion of your parents particularly, could be really useful in terms of getting some bang for their effort.
So, I don't know if you're familiar with the Weird Church in Cumberland. I've been up there 2 or 3 times. They've got a very dynamic young minister, Ingrid. And they're doing a bunch of different things, which is not really pushing United Church, per se. So one of those things is nature walks. They have walks up into the Cumberland Forest and they give you noise cancelling earphones. And the minister will stop and say, close your eyes and listen. And walk in a couple hundred meters, close your eyes and smell, or close your eyes and touch what's there. And it kind of draws you into one with nature. They're really, really good. It's one thing. The second thing is they have discussion groups, I think on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, where you can just go and talk about current topics in the community or in the nation. Thirdly, they have an annual chili cook-off, which attracts a lot of people like me who are focused on the stomach. It draws in all sorts of people from the community. Fourthly, they have a really good outreach program where they go and provide meals for seniors. We don't do a lot of that. And I think this is a bonding thing for them. They probably do a bunch of other stuff as well, but the fact is they're innovative and we're not.
Well, we jump pass it on to the next speaker. That doesn't sound like it's on for me. There we go. I didn't know we were going to be having these kinds of discussions today, or I would have brought a book that I just finished. Sorry, I can't give you the name now, but I can get it to you. And that is The Histories, How Religions Cycled in on Themselves. And this author's point in the last chapter was, in the next century, he pointed out, that it would probably be a religion based on nature. So I'm saying this based on what we just heard from Keith. So the point that I want to make is, our reality is we're a colonialist religion base. And I remember when we had Randy Fred, that was his name, came to us, we had a huge turnout. So my point is, being on Comox land, would it not be appropriate for us to ask those members to come and lead our services regularly so that we can get to that form of nature and that form of spirituality? So I'll now pass on the mic.
Well, I agree with a lot of the things that Keith said, and a lot of those things we actually do through our fundraising committee. We go nature walks and we do feasts and all those community events. It's not everybody, but it's who wants to attend. The other thing I think what we could do in terms of outreach is to market ourselves better. And I would volunteer right now to be part of an outreach committee if anyone else wants to, because it always works better with 2 people or more, not just one person. So one of the ideas I have is we market ourselves at North Island College and at Costco, and because you bring in people of different faiths, people of different, it'd be more diverse, and we'd invite them based on putting an ad up, like something like we're doing a Netflix talk on. We'll show like a 15, like we've done this before, and I think it's very riveting when we show a Netflix topic and to facilitate it, it's not that difficult, right? You just play the video and then we do just small group discussions. So, anyway. What's that?
TED Talk.
TED Talk. What did I say? Netflix, yeah. TED Talk.
Could do.
You know what I meant.
I get more people with it.
Hi, my name's Julie again. So I'm probably the newest person here, having only started in September, and I came looking for connection and kindness, and you guys are a very kind, welcoming group. If we're looking at continuing on and growing larger and more diverse, I have a couple of ideas. I talked to my 17-year-old son, and he doesn't go to church. He grew up, I guess, more Buddhist than anything, because we were in Taiwan, and anyways, I asked him, what would bring you to church? And he said, well, as long as it was really clear what they stood for, because I find he's gone to friends' churches and things. You go and you think you know what they're all about, but then there's a bunch of hidden rules that you don't know. And I said, well, the group I'm going to now, they're very clear on their 7 rules and 7 principles, or there's 8 now, right? I'm still new. And that's it. However, having grown up, my grandma was Catholic, my dad was Anglican, I went to Pentecostal church in my teens. You guys are very Christian adjacent. If I were to come in and not listen to your words, I would think you're a Christian church.
Yes.
And that's okay for me, because I'm familiar with all that. My son, his friends that aren't Christian probably wouldn't like it as much. For solutions, I love working with NIC students. There's about 400 to 600 international students here, and they're not just coming here to study and leave. They want to make Canada their home. So instead of maybe doing something for them, be a little bit more collaboratory. We have a space here. We can go to the different groups and say, hey, you've got a festival coming up. How can we help you? What do you want to do to celebrate? How can we support you? Something like that. Also, there's a lot of great groups in our community that we can be collaborative with. Collaborative with. For example, the youth, one environmental group, they're very keen, they're very enthusiastic. And, you know, go to them and say, look, we appreciate what you're doing. How can we help? And then, not just us volunteering and running an event, but it would be together with them. We would support them, and that would just show ourselves as a community that cares, and that is something that other people might consider being a part of.
Where did you get all this?
Sorry.
So before we go in the room, I see Christy has a hand up. We can have Christy.
Actually, Tara had a hand up first.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Christie's online.
Christy's online had their hand up for a while.
Oh, okay. Oh, digital hand.
A digital hand, yeah.
There it is.
Yes.
I was just gonna say, when I was in the hospital, I say, well, I'm going to, at 4 o'clock, I'm going to the fellowship at 4 o'clock, and a lot of staff would ask me, well, what's that? And I'd say, well, it's the Unitarian Church. Well, they'd never even heard of it. And I mean, I'm talking, every staff person I talked to had never heard of Unitarian fellowship. And I mean, none of the patients had either, but that's neither here nor there. But I was just really surprised that in such a small, because I'm from Vancouver, in such a small community, that there's so many people that don't even know who we are. So I agree with, what was it that I was saying about marketing? Greg, yeah, I think, you know, obviously, you know, our name needs to get out there and what we're about and who we are. Because every staff person I told about it was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Like, that would be really awesome.
Nice.
Tara.
Tara, and then we have Keith, and we have Anakin. Okay.
This, I don't, my thoughts are kind of scrambled, so make of it what you will. It relates to people connecting in small groups and also turnout on Sundays, and it's just my experience, from Vancouver that although, yes, there were all kinds of things happening through the week, a lot of them also happened immediately, either before or after church services. So people are gathering for multiple reasons. And they'll come to church because they've got a meeting after, or an activity, or a meditation, or there's a variety of things. But what that also brings to mind is our time of day as being a problem for that. So anyway, I thought I'd throw out that we need to get our small groups maybe better connected in to our services. And to have, you know, a meeting over here or there. I don't know, that would be very appealing to me to make things feel much more kind of alive.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I get on the list, yeah.
I have a speakers list. Anyone else want to go on the speakers?
Aiden had his,
Aiden,
I just.
okay.
So, I suggest we could look at two things we do very well. One is the men's group, which is increasing regularly in membership. It's very strong, very powerful group. Secondly, I look at our annual summer picnic, which is always really, really well attended. Maybe there's some indications there for us to look at. The third thing is our Soul Matters group, which is run by Alan and Wanda. I don't know what the membership is now, but we do a really good job of that. So these are some of our strengths. I'm going to speak from bits of personal experience about a fourth thing as well. I was very aware of this decline in our congregation 2 years ago, and I joined the service planning committee. And I have to say, I dropped out after a couple of months because I felt very unwelcome. I was not very welcome to come up with different ideas. The couple of times I've done services which have been very different, like Aaron's service the other week where we all had to draw a picture or write a poem. Those things I think are frowned upon. And I think we should examine our conservatism.
I would like to delete religion and church out of the picture totally. And I'm afraid I don't agree with Julie in that I don't feel that we are Christian based. So,
I didn't say you're Christian based, I said anyone coming in would think you.
oh, okay, well, maybe that could be, and a lot of people refer to as the Unitarian Church. But I think that we should definitely be emphasizing Unitarian fellowship rather than church, but they do think of it as a church and probably think of it, especially as we are meeting in the United Church, that we are a religion. So that I think that can be an issue. I think we are we're all considered spiritual, but not religious. Thank you.
Yeah, I wrote down three things. People were talking. I really agree a lot with Julie and Greg about marketing, but especially about the college and working to bring people, help people do things. And that's one of the few times I think our 4 o'clock time slot could really work to our advantage, because you're not going to get them to want to hold an event at 9 o'clock Sunday morning. But you might be able to get them to hold an event 4 o'clock through to 8 or whatever on a Sunday. And that would, I think, you know, that's quite a very good idea. The other part about marketing, Greg says he wants to start a committee, but I'd ask Greg to hold off on that until we got our act together. If we get a bunch of people that come, they're gonna see the same old thing, and then they're gonna leave. You know, that's what they've done. People come here, they come, you see the bodies come in, they look, and then you don't see them again. Because we're Christian adjacent. and they don't take the time to get to know us and who we are. And there's a lot of us, me included, that don't always like the services. I hate those old dirges we sing. I just cringe the whole time, but I love most of the hymn book. But a lot of the hymn book is not those old Christian songs that we've changed the words to. We have to change the words to a song. We should not sing it. All right. And then the other thing, this is just a little aside, but I've talked about it once before. And I really like, how many people here give more money to out of the community than they give to the church? Or a similar amount? Raise your hands.
What do you mean by give?
Give,
Like,
Other-
donate?
to
In total or
In
just to
other-
one organization?
No, and everything in the valley, is there people here that give that total to charities in the valley? Similar to the amount,
Or beyond.
no, this is my question, it's
Oh, okay.
not beyond, just the valley.
Okay.
So, well, I get the impression quite a few people give money, other than the money they give to the church, Unitarians do that. We don't give very much to our church, but we give lots to charity. And so I thought of this before, is that I don't like, we always send an email for $500 before Christmas to the food bank. We get the tax deduction. Well, I would much rather give it to the church a month or two before, and the church build it up. And then when it matters, the church gives the food bank $2,500 from all of us. We still get our tax deduction, which is very important to me. And I think it could be done without too much effort, but that would be one way we could show who we are. Because as individuals, we do give to this community, a lot of us volunteer, we're good members of the community, but people don't know. So that's one way. It's just a book. It's not as important as the stuff that Julie was talking about, I think, but it's one thing that would help.
Insurance.
Hi, thank you. So many really interesting ideas today. I think maybe I'm sort of half repeating what some other people have said, but my first instinct to put up my hand was, we don't have to change everything, because some of the stuff we do, a lot of stuff we do, these 24 people actually like, and that's why we keep them. And when we try to change everything once, then our subconscious resistance jumps in, and the change doesn't really take effect, because we actually like the way we've been doing things, but it doesn't necessarily bring in more people. So in order to make changes, we have to be really conscious of our own participation and management of our own emotional reactions too.
At the risk of sounding negative, I'm going to say something. I know we don't want to be negative. The Weird Church, which I've attended several times, they're a hell of a lot younger than us. So whatever we do here to make improvements, et cetera, we do have to take into account the realities of what we can do and how we can use our resources to maximize. And but we don't have a lot of young people here right now to do some of the things. I am very willing to join with Greg if we have a committee to do all this stuff, but we have to face reality in other ways too.
Someone says we are.
Yes.
We are.
We are older. So.
We're going to make sure people who haven't spoken go to the top of the list, so it'll be
Aiden, Norm, you haven't spoken yet. Yes, you have. Lynn,
Not recent.
Barbara, and Juliana.
Can you leave that visible?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying. Can you see it here?
You're still there, Lord.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, Aiden.
This has just been, this idea came to me early and it just occurred to me that you could do just a regular Sunday service, very familiar, but do it in a different space, and that just as an experiment kind of thing, just a novel, doing something outside, weather permitting, or whatever. A small change, like a change in setting, can make a big difference. So it's something to try.
Yeah, we'll put Norm there.
So I think in thinking about what could work, it's important to look at what has worked. And, you know, there was a time in the fellowship when Heather Kennedy, Neil was involved in bringing in, you know, Cecil Andrews and the slow food movement. And we had a Pete Seeger sing-along where this hall was totally full. The people were standing at the doors trying to listen in because it was so appealing for people to come and sing along with Pete Seeger or something. So, and then we brought in, you know, speakers on dream interpretation, and we brought in, you know, all sorts of speakers that people wanted to hear. I don't get anything out of these canned services. You know, to me, just having a canned speaker on AI, which doesn't have any insights into AI to begin with, doesn't motivate me to come out and hear what's going on. I think we have to have things that people will really have responded to, like Heather and Murray brought speakers on Zen Buddhism to the church and filled the hall. And I think, you know, Jeremy Taylor and those kinds of high impact speakers are what people would come out for, what they have come out for. So I would like to see us look at a different way of seeing our Sunday services. That's it.
So Dan Vi has written something, one of the Zoom attendees.
Okay.
So where does he go?
I'm not
Should
sure.
I read it or?
I will put him on the list like
Okay.
everybody else.
Okay.
No, not.
And we should probably close the list after we've got through the people that are on it, because we're already at,
Okay, that's the end of the speakers list.
yeah. So whoever's on it is on it at this point.
So we've got Lynn, Barbara, Juliana, Dan By, Greg, and that's it.
Would anybody object to running for another 15 minutes or 20 minutes?
We're already gonna run another 15 minutes going through that list.
Yeah, okay.
That's why I'm calling it now.
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah.
Okay, my turn, okay. So one of the things that's really important to me while we're thinking about how to draw in and attract other people to join is to make sure to keep meeting the needs of the current members. Like, that's really important. And so I'm in favor of not having a contract minister next year, but I would not be in favor of not having services. I could see going to maybe once a month instead of twice, although personally I prefer twice, but I could see going through that as a minimum. And I think just a couple of other ideas, I guess, of it. It would be good to have some potential groups named that we could all be saying, yeah, okay, I'd be happy to participate here, participate there. I was sad when I moved here in November, a longtime Unitarian. and was really looking forward to being part of a women's group here. And sadly, the women's group is closed. And for all kinds of reasons that I understand, but I think that's worth looking at in terms of like, it's so big, it's time to maybe split into two. Because I think we always have to have a space for somebody who wants to become part of the fellowship. And so I'd be interested in joining with others on the worship services team, you know, for the next year, the plan. And I agree with ideas here too about some, the kinds of speakers that might bring in another bigger crowd. And I'd be interested in being part of a small group that would offer something like, new to you, or for new people who want to learn more about our Unitarian history and our faith, and are maybe thinking about joining. And I think that would be valuable to do as a small group that can meet with just one or two people at a time. We don't have to wait until there's a group for that. So those are just a few thoughts. Thank you.
Good thoughts.
Thank you.
I was remiss when I began, the meeting, and I did not thank the people who are here and regularly attend and put in incredible effort and come up with what is here and existing now.
Yeah.
I know how exhausted people get. I know how much people are giving up to be here and to do things for other people. That I was in remiss. I should have begun with a hearty thank you to the people who show up and do the work.
Can we give
The other thing I would say is we need more volunteer hours. All these are great ideas. Maybe people will, be able to come up with some more money to put in, but we need feet on the ground, not just butts in the seats, but we need feet on the ground. And that will come if we meet the needs of people who are coming. But I will point out that over COVID, we have lost many things. One of the things we lost was our functioning welcoming committee, which included people who did like new to UU, who supplied the greeters. The greeters are called, there's a list of 3 or 4 now who get called to cover the Sunday. We're thin on the ground, really thin on the ground. And I love all the ideas. I really just we need to get some people who have some energy, who are able to give a little bit of energy towards it, because we have great ideas, we have pages of ideas that could happen, but it all requires volunteers. Let's see. Naming groups to participate in. I can remember coming here in 2013, being really mystified. I had been in UU churches all my life, or fellowships, really mystified by how one becomes part of any of the groups here. And I don't think that's changed. I think there are some groups that are really good, that are still open, but yes, the women's group, there was another women's group, and the people participating in that were spread too thin, and it closed. So I just really cannot say more, that we need some more on the ground. Some people are fighting illness. They are supporting partners and family members who have illness. And I think we need to remember that when we think, oh, should I go to Sunday service? Oh, I don't feel like it. Some people have put in that effort to bring whatever that is. And our services are what people bring to it. And, I disagree. I think you can, I don't like to have to go to Christian, to translate Christian theology and terminology when I go to, what I call a spiritual or a faith gathering. But, you can bring a different spirit to it and, still get something out of it. And it changes based on who's present in the room. So I just wanted to thank people who come and encourage you to come. And I'm glad people showed up today. It makes a huge difference.
I guess a couple things. I just wanted to point out that if the Weird Church, I'm pretty sure if it's connected to the United Church of Canada. Yeah, so I think they probably have lots of funds and they have, or lots of people that they can encourage to support all the wild and wonderful things that they do, which, you know, money does talk a little bit there. I think they are very savvy and, not saying that we can't be that, but it's just, you know, they may have a lot deeper pockets, maybe to facilitate some of that kind of stuff. So it's hard to, pardon?
Full-time minister.
Yeah, and it's hard to compare ourselves. It's really not, you know, we can't compare. Great ideas, be awesome to bring some of that. I know. Secondly, that for me, when you started, George, you know, community, connection, those things really resonate quite deeply for me. And I know I haven't been able to come or haven't come, and it's just not the right Sunday. It falls on the wrong day that I'm busy. I'm not here, which makes me feel sad, but I still have you all with me. And I'm very aware of that. And so even though I'm not here, I have you by me. And so that I'm super grateful for. And I wouldn't want to be without that, because I feel like it's really part of how I'm able to get through some days or whatever. So I don't know what to do about that, but it's just, regardless, I don't think Dan and I would have the life that we have here without this community. And I'm unbelievably grateful for all the gifts that I've received from everybody. And you know, I think I put some of that out into the community, and hopefully, you know, put it out to whenever is needed from my fellow community members. But yeah, something's missing, and I think we can do more. But regardless, I feel you all anyway. So you're still part of me. But let's feed this community somehow. We will do it together.
Right here.
It's Dan Vice.
That's Dan Vice.
now. Right.
Okay, I'll just read what he said.
Yeah,
Or
and then
unless,
you'll-
Dan, do you want to read it?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I just
Hi,
didn't want to have to make you stare at my face the whole meeting.
We love your face.
Hi. Yeah, so
Magic.
so we're talking about, you know, our needs versus outreach and the community's needs. And those are kind of two different things. But you know, I think this is going to take some long-term planning to sort out. I mean, you're calling it experimenting, you know, but we're not going to sort it out right now. So my question was, where are we going to do this? Are we going to set up more meetings? Maybe you guys are going to talk about that. You know, I'm just not a fan of trying to do it by email, because it's basically one-on-one. I prefer something where everybody can see and hear what everybody is saying. And Facebook can work for that if people use it, but there has to be a preferred communications channel. That's all I wanted to say right now.
Well, that is a great segue, Dan. Thank you.
Hey. I don't like to close a meeting without knowing, like, where's this going, you know?
So did we get through was Dan the last person on the
We
speakers
have
list?
one more break.
So
One more.
And we can meet at a coffee shop sometime, anyway. So
Yeah.
a few things are kind of, one is this, big part of why I liked being Unitarian and why I was attracted to it is the idea of spiritual exploration, right? Learning about other religions. And I loved it when we had an indigenous chief come and speak to our church. And I loved when we had a Jewish rabbi come and speak to our church. And I was thinking if we connect with the immigrants and say like, we'll have them run a service. So we don't have to do anything. Yeah. And we learn from them, right? We learn from them. And we could also invite the refugees in the valley. Like there's like 200 or so Ukrainians, right? And although that would be probably Christian, but anyway. So we can reach out to them to say, well, this is a space, you're welcome, you run the show, and then we just learn from them. The other thing is that I love what Art and Joy did, that they willed some money to the church. So I'm wondering if that's something that we can all like be encouraged to do, is a percentage of your wealth goes to the church upon your eventual, you know. The other thing, if we do the thing, about the getting other people to run a service, is that would be a lot less planning. Even if we do lay led, like if I decide I'm going to do a service on a Netflix,
TED Talks.
TED Talk, then I'll just do it the way I want to do it. I'm not going to do, I'll light a candle, but I'm not going to do, and we have a template to follow in PowerPoint, so it'll take like 5 minutes of prep, and that's what you get, right? And it could be like we pre-planned so that people know that Sunday is going to be a TED Talk on this specific topic, right? Anyway, and that's where we can reach out to every single person in the congregation. What would you do a service on?
All right, so we have a lot of ideas. Some other ideas that came up on the board as well that I want to just throw into the mix is the potential of partnering with other congregations, because we are not the only congregation in this boat. Whether that's like in Nanaimo, where it's more geographically close, or one of the smaller congregations in the Lower Mainland, or even Saskatoon are apparently looking for partner congregations. So there's like different congregations looking for partnerships right now to figure out how to do things in a more sustainable kind of way. We also talked about doing more community engagement kind of stuff, having somebody who is like leading community-based events, whether that's something like a community kitchen where people come and cook together, make meals together, eat together, and take some home, or other kind of events like that. And then we also talked about the possibility of doing, instead of like twice a month worship services, doing a certain number of like seasonal ritual things that can be promoted. So things like solstice, fire communion, Samhain, like we get additional people into those, we can advertise those in a different way, and that can draw a different energy, and we tend to have much higher turnouts for those. They do take more work, so we couldn't be doing that probably not even every month, but we could do like, I don't know, 6 a year or something like that. We could look at how many could be done. Another thing is to expand in small groups. And one of the things I think somebody said earlier is like that connection between the small groups. And so maybe at 4 o'clock on a Sunday, multiple small groups could be meeting in the church space in different rooms and then have tea together afterwards. That there's no need for a plan for worship if each of the small groups are kind of milling around in the same space, or there's like open drop-in discussion things at that time that people can do. So that's some of the ideas that we had at the board level as well, to add to that mix that weren't covered. And so the plan for what is next is we have another community connections meeting booked for April 28th at 4 p.m. It's the last Sunday of April, or fourth and last Sunday, to continue the conversation. And we'd really want to invite you to, over that 6 weeks, to think about all the different ideas that we've come up with today, possibly other ideas that you might come up with between now and then, and think about which ones give you energy. And I think really focusing on that lens of connection and spirituality, that is what we want. What will make you feel connected? What will give you that sense of spirituality in this community out of all these myriad of things that we've discussed? And we are a small congregation. We can't do everything. So where do we want to put the energy? Where is going to give us the best bang for our buck in terms of connection and in terms of spirituality? That's what we want to look at. So we can think about that. And when we come back in April, we're going to do a deeper dive into those topics that people identify that they have energy or excitement about, and figure out how we can start experimenting with them. So that is our plan. Another thing I just wanted to add is although in general religions are declining in numbers, there are places that are really vibrant and are growing. And Weird Church is an example of that. The Sanctuary in Boston is an example of that people talked about. The places that are thriving are places that are doing things differently. And they are places that know who they are working with. Weird Church is really clear. They're working with families, and everything that they are doing is around families. Boston Sanctuary is really clear. They're targeting young adults, and other people go to both of them, but they're clear who their target is. They're clear what their message is. They're clear who they're wanting to bring in. And I think when we try and attract everybody, we really attract nobody. And we can have a target and other people can come, but if it's about having that message that we can communicate clearly, and then that attracts people. So that is our goal. Please stay and have coffee. I wish I was there with you to have some tea. But we will continue this conversation informally as we go through, and then we'll continue it deeper on April 28th and see where we can go, and hopefully come up with in April some definite ideas that we can bring to the AGM if we need to, and just plan for next year. And then we can plan how we want to use the resources that we have for the next stage. Barbara, do you have any closing words?
No.
More glad any.
Thank you and goodbye.
Or George? Or Wanda?
A couple of things. Next Sunday, the men's group is doing service.
What's that?
Oh, wait, Vanna.
Mike?
Next Sunday, the men's group are doing a service on the theme of vulnerability and powerless. Which kind of yes. And Norm, there is a Gordon Lightfoot concert for May 10th. And the third thing is, we have 3 Facebook sites. One is Comox Valley Unitarian Fellowship, which is a moderated site. So that's sort of our announcement page. But there's a second site called Comox Valley Unitarians, which is an open site. One of the possibilities is over the next 6 weeks, throw your ideas up on there, and you could have an ongoing conversation on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for coming and doing this conversation with us. And I think that we can come up with something that's really going to work and going to be exciting. So thanks, and enjoy your coffees and teas, and I will see you in a few weeks.
Thanks, Aaron. Your son say that his friends would close this meeting.
I don't know.
You wouldn't know? Okay, thank you.
Closing here. Choir.
No fading of peace and love until we meet again. And we shall see the world and the world. There will be no flame of peace and love until we meet.
I have a question about that. Wonderful.
Thank you for listening.